and welcome everyone to a discussion with TrustMe's Mir Islam and Ganesh Nakhawa on security and governance for AI in software development. I'm Mir Taig. I'm a strategic advisor for TrustMe, and I'll be facilitating our conversation with Mir and Ganesh, the leaders of our technology and product strategies, respectively. Now, we all know AI/ML has already seen a 38% growth from 22 to 23, and it's only accelerating, which is why we're offering the critical insights of Mir and Ganesh today, so you can stay ahead of this technology curve and help take advantage of everything that it has to offer. Mir is TrustMe's CTO and brings a wealth of engineering leadership and knowledge from his history, including Pulse Secure, Citrix, and LinkedIn. Ganesh leads our product development as TrustMe's CPO, bringing extensive experience and industry knowledge from his leadership at Avocado Systems, Accurix, and Pulse Secure. Welcome both of you, Mir and Ganesh. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Miriam.
So we all know that conversations around security and governance for AI have been increasing. Why now, and why is this so important for all of us to stay ahead of? We know that there's a rapid increase in the use of AI and ML, and we've seen some obvious examples of misuse or mismanagement when we take a look at things like ChatGPT's hallucinated court cases, or Ty the chatbot, or the most recent news around Air Canada. So this is resulting in increased scrutiny, regulation, but also positively awareness and solutions to help us work better with AI. So before we talk about those risks, let's talk about the beginning and understand what are some of the most beneficial and positive uses and impacts you've seen from the growth of AI and software development. Ganesh, this is your area or one of your many areas of expertise. Let's have you go first with this.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. Good question, though. Slowly, AI is becoming mainstream technology, and a lot of enterprise, they're planning to deploy AI or machine learning for their environment, right? If you look at like 2023 Gartner survey for CTO or technology executives, 32% of responders, they said like their organizations, they're deploying AI and machine learning. And 17% of they said like we will follow the trend, and within next 12 months or so, we will also try to deploy that. So this is great news for AI. And so, the question is, what are the benefits? What are the advantage with AI? So data analysis makes it easy with AI. AI technique like machine learning that enables organization to analyze a large volume of data quickly and extract the meaningful insights from the data, right? Example could be like, medical field. They got like really breakthrough by analyzing a large amount of data, whether you're dealing with molecular level of data or cellular level of data, that can use to invent medicines for different diseases, right? Predictive analytics is another one where you can use predictive analytics for future trend, behavior, or outcome based on historical data. Just imagine if you're a software development manager and you want to focus on delivering releases on time with quality, right? AI/ML can help you to predict your current project or sprint, and you can decide if you want to achieve 100% predictability. Can I add more SMEs or additional resources to the release or sprint, right? Another area or benefits I would think about is from security perspective is fraud detection. And AI can detect anomalies or patterns which indicates the fraudulence activity, whether it's in financial transactions or cybersecurity or even insurance claim processing, right? So those are the use cases can useful with AI. Another important thing, like a lot of enterprise actually adopting generative AI or natural language processing AI techniques, right? And which actually enable users or computers to understand and interpret the human language. So a good example could be chatbot. And you mentioned, Maria, that the chatbot, virtual assistant, right? So there are really good advantage with the AI. And you can also add like automation for the AI by eliminating some of the repetitive tasks or processes that will improve your efficiency as well as productivity within the organization, basically.
Yeah, thank you. So enormously extensive uses, obviously, for AI and ML. And some of the things it sounds like we're hearing about are, AI and ML as an assistive device, as a partner to us in the things that we are doing, whether that's helping with large data sets or whether that's on the generative and creative side. So we've talked a little bit about some of the benefits, some of the things around how AI and ML can be a foundational partner for our organizations and those examples that you talked about. But we also all know that with these big, exciting new technologies, especially ones that are accelerating as fast as we are seeing this, there are risks. So can you walk us through some of those risks, some of those impacts? And then also, maybe for the audience, where are some things that we should be watching out for examples of prohibited use of AI? And I think that, Mir, this is an area of particular specialty for you. So can you take this one?
Yeah, so before I address that question, which is really good and timely, I want to actually share a quote from the movie Dune. The quote somewhat, goes like this: "People turn their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free, but that only permitted other people with machines to enslave them."
Mm,
So, I mean, I would like to take 1 second to think about it and kind of like draw a parallelism to our current environment.
mhm,
What are we doing, right? For example, we are talking to ChatGPT. We are handing over all our stuff to it. We said, "Hey, solve this for me. Solve this so that I don't have to do any work, so that I can be free." But is it really what's happening? There is somebody behind the ChatGPT. There is somebody behind who actually owns ChatGPT, right? Or the other AI ML systems which are out there. So this puts us in a very precarious position, right? And we need to be really, really careful on how we are using AI within our systems, within our environment, and be aware that where the boundary line should be drawn, right? So that we don't fall into that trap, or we get entrapped into
yes.
a vicious cycle, right? So with that, what I want to say is that, there are quite a few areas where the AI should be used very cognizantly, right? And this especially comes when, we are dealing with human beings, privacy issues, kids, children, and whatnot, right? One of the main thing that, AI, sometimes can be used is to do social scoring,
Mhm,
uh, and the social scoring, is somewhere, people's behavior, buying patterns, and other things. Depending on that, a score is assigned to them, and based on that, companies can manipulate that what they will be seeing,
mhm,
or how can they manipulate that particular person to go in a certain way. It could be political, it could be commercial,
mhm,
be a bunch of other things. And those type of things where, we are getting manipulated should be completely prohibited.
mhm,
Fortunately, EU is coming up with a act for ethical AI and the usage of AI, and they have particularly and expressed that social scoring should not be allowed
mhm.
for AI to make a decision. So that's one aspect. There are several other different things that's happening in there, but I want to at least just talk about the social score, because that is very critical, and that kind of like impacts all of us.
Yes. Yeah. So Mir, thank you for that. That's, very Dune and Black Mirror-esque.
I,
We've all
I
seen
was going to say Black Mirror too. There was an episode about social scoring in Black Mirror.
Yep,
If,
yep. If
if the audience
anybody
recall, yes.
will include it in the follow-up email so
Yes.
everybody can watch that particular episode. So Mir, that's really helpful to understand, to really just be thinking about have a moment of mindfulness almost as you're using these solutions, understanding that the data that you are giving it, there's a technology, there's, an industry and a company behind it. So just be cognizant and aware of what you are providing our AI/ML solutions for, what you're asking them to do, and what they're using that data and information for. So that's great in terms of really understanding what are some of our own risks? What are some of the risks for organizations in terms of making sure that they're not using AI and ML in prohibited or unethical ways? So we've discussed some of those risks, but then we also have the risk of outside-in risks. So attacks, as we mentioned, particularly, we've seen it in the airlines, we've seen a couple in health industries, credit cards, and personal information hacks. So what have you seen? What are some of the major vulnerabilities? Ganesh, that's something you've worked quite a lot on.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, we already mentioned, even Mir also expressed that, right? AI ML can be blessing and it can be curse at the same time. There are a lot of advantages. However, we have seen many AI related attacks recently, right? And there are a couple, but I want to highlight a couple of important ones, which, everybody should be aware of that and find the solution for that, right? Prompt injection against large language model is a key vulnerabilities that we have seen recently. So prompt is nothing but interaction between human and LLM to generate the intended output, right? So attacker can craft the prompt that can trick your LLM model into revealing like sensitive information like your credential exposures or internal system details and so on and so forth, right? By making the model think that a request is a legit request, and that creates a lot of hassles, right? They can get that data, they can get the credential, and they can exfiltrate data after that, right? So you can implement the strict input validation sanitization for your user provided prompt. Another one is data poisoning. This is important because the attacker, they know, like, most of the AI works on training the data, right? But if your data is poisoned, and that creates a lot of issues, right? So you want to ensure that training data is thoroughly validated or even verified before you train the model. Another area is sensitive information, and we have seen with our traditional network as well, right? Sensitive information is critical, but with LLM applications have the potential because a lot of enterprise now they are using third-party LLM modules, right? So that can result into unauthorized access to sensitive data or your intellectual properties or privacy violations and so on and so forth. So it can create security breach, right? So you have to be very careful about that as well. There are another supply chain related vulnerabilities also that are important that where attacker can poison your publicly available data sets and so on and so forth, right? That can create challenges for the enterprise. And you heard about denial of service. In AI ML also, there's a model denial of service attack happens, right? Where attacker can repeatedly send multiple or difficult, costly requests to hosted model that can lead into declining quality service for their end users, right? So that can incur like high resource costs for that enterprise as well. So those are the critical I can see that recently is happening in AI ML field. So definitely in enterprise or IT engineers, even developers, right? They want to make sure that whatever code they're writing, right, those are vulnerability free. But not only that, how do you guard those LLMs in order to exposing that internal information to the external resource.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was a great walkthrough in terms of some of the things that we really need to be keeping an eye out for, and not just an eye out for, but actively working to prevent and resolve. Because as we're talking about potential internal and external impacts, I think it's important for all of us to remember that, of course, the downstream impacts are people and human beings, not just businesses, and not just our finances as organizations. So in future fireside chats and discussions, we'll talk more about other solutions available to help manage this. But of course, in combination with those of us building platforms, products, solutions to help with this visibility management and security, we also have governments, agencies, and other organizations stepping in to try and help with that governance side of things, supporting the businesses and the people on the outside. So, Mir, this is a big area of specialty for you. You mentioned governance briefly a few moments ago. Things like how do we help prevent use of things for things like social scores? So, I know you care deeply about it. Can you talk a little bit about some of the critical trends that you're seeing and the insights from that?
Yeah, I mean, the critical trends is that, I mean, we all know that governments are usually slower to adopt technology, and they're always behind the curve on when a new technology comes on board and people start using it. But we are also seeing that the governments are actually this time very proactive. There are
Mhm.
several different legislations are already kind of like in the pipeline. Most advanced is probably the EU AI Act, which actually they have specified very, very in detail that what the companies can do and cannot do, and they have classified this into four different categories. Like the one of them is the prohibitive. You cannot use the AI for these kind of things, and one of the prohibitive items that I discussed is the social scoring. There could be other biometric collection of information of individuals and using those to make some determination. There could be other usage of those which are prohibitive, but they also have categorized it in different other where you will have the high risk and the lower risk, and then and also for the transparency.
Mhm.
Essentially, what they are trying to make sure is that, and all of the other governments are also trying to kind of follow the suit. Singapore government actually was one of the first government which came up with a ethical usage of AI framework of
Mm.
sort. It was published last year, I think, sometime. And the thing is that people are struggling to actually understand how to kind of like corral this issue of
Mhm.
privacy and at the same time allow the users to use and benefit from the AI, all the benefits that Ganesh talked about before, right? So there is a kind of like a delicate balance between the privacy issues and ethical issues of AI and the convenience. And we all know that if you want a lot of convenience, you will have to give up something. And the governments are trying to make sure that we have a proper governance in place, and this is important. And it's not just only important at the personal level, but it's also important as the society for
Yeah.
us,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, the AI is for the human, right? And if I were to go back to the Dune quotation, if we are not cognizant, then we probably will give up our freedom and everything else, and we will not even know that we have been enslaved. Um, okay, maybe a little bit too dramatic, but nevertheless, it can happen, right? So it is very important to follow those governance rules that EU is putting together,
Mhm.
and Singapore government has put together, and then also the US government is now have several different in the pipeline that is coming up. And this is going to ultimately help us, and it's going to also ultimately also set the boundaries of AI, of
Mhm.
ethical use, right? And this also reminds me, there was this book that I read. It was called Army of None.
Mm.
This was in Bill Gates' book list, several years back, and I actually read it 2018 before the generative AIs,
Mm.
all the things came up, right? It was that how U.S. Army was using AI to determine how the targets will be, or the arms will be fired, right? And this was like done in like 80s, 90s, and sometime far long back before AI was actually mainstream. So these type of things have been there, and usage of these, or the usage of various different other scoring mechanism during the warfare it poses a ethical dilemma for everybody in the society, and we need to be cognizant of that, and we need to make sure that AI is being used for the purpose of good for the humanity, and that is something that I'm glad that EU is stepping up and putting their weight behind it, like the several other governments.
That's great. Yeah, Mir, thank you so much for walking us through that. So I think a lot of people operating in this space, as you mentioned, it's a big, fast-moving space, and it can be a struggle to keep up to date on how to protect yourself, how to protect your business, how to make sure that you're aligning with any governance and industry solutions and best practices. So it sounds like we've got some good resources, though, which is great. Beyond, obviously, you and Ganesh, who are not available to the wide world to ask questions of, people can go and take a look at some of the EU guidelines, at the Singapore guidelines, read Bill Gates' book. We'll send some of these links along for you. So what I really appreciate as well is that both of you continue to bring it back to not just the industry in the world, but the people and the individuals that it impacts. And so we're going to continue to see the growth of this technology in both our personal and our professional lives. And so as we are thinking about that, that means that we all have the opportunity to really partner with this solution and grow with the sea change in this available technology. So Mir, Ganesh, I know that this is an enormous topic and we could probably talk for hours on this. This has been really educational for myself and I hope for the audience as well. So thank you for providing the insights into the security and governance for AI, particularly in software development. For those of you who are watching today, if you want to learn more about AI's impact and potential, we have other chats available as well. So including last week's discussion with Yunus Aftab, the CEO of TrustMe, on why lack of visibility in R&D is hurting your business. And then next week, we also have a discussion with Suni Lobo, the Chief People Officer, for a conversation on creating trusted people ecosystems with AI, which is very timely as we start to talk about the personal and person impact of AI and ML. So if you, like us, Mir, Ganesh, myself, and TrustMe, really see the need for bringing together visibility, efficiency, security, and quality with that business context to protect, grow your business, and protect the people that we all impact at the end of the day, please stay in touch. Thank you again to Mir and Ganesh for all of you for joining us today. We really look forward to working with you soon and see you at the next Fireside Chat. Thank you to Mir and Ganesh and to all of you for joining.
Thank you,
Thank
Maria.
you.
Everyone. Okay, bye.
Bye.